Okay. Craig, does the red dot show up for you that I'm recording?
Yeah, you're good.
Perfect. I'm going to start sharing our screen. Um, and now you see this?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Um, I want to hold on. Okay, I guess I'm just going to present it and I'm not going to be able to see anyone. Is that okay?
Yeah, do you want me to help with because I can see everyone.
All right, that's fine then. As long as one of us can, then we can get started. So, hi everyone. My name is Grace. I'm an SPI, and I taught exploring careers in the sciences.
And hi everyone, my name's Craig. I'm also a senior PI and I taught exploring exercise science last semester.
So, we're going to be teaching you our workshop on time management with Craig's creative name. Um, okay, so as part of like a little icebreaker we wanted to have, we would like to have everybody share their name, their topical area, and your favorite time wasting activity. And I think I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen right now, and we can all go on grid mode to see each other. Um, and we can just share, like I said, our name, topical area. I'll put this in the chat. Name, topical area, time wasting activity. So I can go first. As I said, my name is Grace, and I taught careers in the sciences. And my favorite time wasting activity is watching House. So please, for this, unmute yourself and make sure we can see your cameras for this session as well.
And I guess I'll go then. So my name's Craig, taught exploring exercise science. Favorite time wasting activity? Definitely scrolling through Twitter. So many good gems in there.
Okay, Eleanor, do you want to go next? Because I'm just picking the order I see.
Sure. So my name is Eleanor. I'm teaching exploring education, and my biggest time waster is YouTube and just like the recommended videos.
Tammy, I see you next, and I also put the order that I see you in the chat so you know when you're coming up. But Cammy, would you like to share next?
Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know. I'm having like really bad connection on my part, so I don't know if I'm actually talking.
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'm Cami. I'm teaching exploring business. I love to go on TikTok. Like I'll scroll through TikTok and each video is like 15 seconds and it'll end up being like 3 hours later. So I don't know where the time goes.
My sister's like TikTok a lot. I'm not on that wave yet, but I think it's gonna happen soon.
I'm too old for TikTok.
You're literally their age, Craig. Up next is Kylie.
So hi, I'm Kylie. I'm teaching exploring business, and I totally relate to that TikTok thing because 1 hour, like you can, like 1 hour feels like 5 minutes when you're on TikTok. But if I'm not on TikTok, I'm probably watching Parks and Rec.
Hey everyone, I'm Madhu and I'm teaching exploring computer science. So my biggest time wasting activity is when I'm watching Netflix, but I also have homework open on my laptop. So I'm trying to do my homework, but I'm not actually doing it. I don't know if you guys like can relate to that. But yeah.
Hi, I'm Millie. I'll be teaching exploring economics in the fall. And my biggest time waster, I relate with like Cami and Kylie. It's also TikTok. It goes by so fast, and I waste all my time. So that's probably the most relatable one.
What's up, everyone? I'm Noah. My topical area is exploring food science, and my time waster is cooking because I cook a lot and I take a long time to cook. But my excuse is that I cook with love, so it takes a long time.
Hi, I'm Rani. I was initially supposed to teach exercise science, but now I am health and medicine. And my time wasting activity is Mobile Legends. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but it's just an online game on the phone.
Hey, my name is Vasanth. I'm going to be teaching exploring dental professions, and my time wasting activity is probably Reddit and YouTube or video games.
Hello, everyone. My name is Assam. I'm going to be teaching exploring exercise science. My biggest time wasting activity is I'm a pretty big nap guy. Um, it's a bit of a problem, especially with this whole quarantine thing. Um, but yeah, I like to sleep a lot. Working on it.
Thank you guys for sharing. I'm gonna move back to my Google Chrome so you can see my screen again. Okay. And you guys can all see this?
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
thank you, thank you. I just really want to make sure.
Everybody was way too quiet. It was so awkward.
So, we're talking today about how time management is an essential skill for your success as students and especially as FIGS PIs. We were in your same shoes this time last year. We both had our own challenges with time management, so we're here to help you learn from our mistakes. So, we're both going to share like what it was like for us last year. I was studying abroad and I was in mainland China, and I had really limited internet access for like the entire 6 weeks of the lesson planning process. So I had to really make sure that I scheduled out when I was going to do it as to like when I had stable access. Otherwise, I would not have been able to get it done.
And so, unfortunately for me, I didn't have the same experience Grace had, because I was really cool seeing her study abroad in China. But I actually started the weekend before it was due because I'm a really bad procrastinator, and so I had to do all 10 weeks worth in a whole weekend. And that was just a lot of pain and suffering. I can see a couple shocked faces, I know. Um, and so, like, you're still in this trust stage as a FIGS PI, and so I wouldn't say violated the trust, but I felt really guilty after I submitted it because we all said, "Oh, I'll go over the summer and work on it a little bit each day," but it didn't turn out like that. And unfortunately, my summer readers were Sue Pie, who's actually technically Lynn's boss, and Lynn herself. So it's not always a fun time getting a phone call from Lynn saying you have to do major re-edits to your lesson plan. So that's why I would say don't procrastinate until the last weekend because it can really come back to bite you.
So we both represent, I'd say, different ends of the spectrum of time management things. So we both wanted to bring our experiences and lessons learned together to bring, I guess, this workshop for you. But in general, you definitely don't want to be stuck with too much work to do in too little time when it comes to lesson planning. So I had a friend the year before I was a PI who did not start any of the lesson plans except for the ones that I already submitted until the day before it was due. And like, you don't want that horror story to be you. Oh, actually, Craig, did you want to talk a little bit about like consequences of poorly written lesson plans?
Yeah, so definitely one of the things I saw, at least when Lynn called me, was that there was just a major lack of detail in my lesson plans. And it's because you can't give the same amount of effort and detail in a lesson plan as you could over the summer in a whole weekend. So that's why I was having a lack of detail in my lesson plans because I just had no time to give that effort and attention. So you definitely don't want that. And then obviously getting ready for the semester, if you have to do major re-edits, that takes up a lot of your other time needed for other FIGS responsibilities. So you just don't want that as well.
So, an easy first step for making sure you're on top of your time is using Google Calendar. So, as Rutgers students, we all have G Suite connected to our Scarlet Mails, and that gives you a lot of different things, but in particular, Google Calendar, which is my favorite tool that Rutgers has ever given me. So, as far as I know, you're all added to the FIGS PI Google Calendar already. However, that is definitely like not enough if you want to make sure you're staying on top of things in your own personal way. So you should make your own personal Google Calendar with your own benchmarks with notifications. So, for example, when you open up your own Google Calendar, if you make an event, you can change when it notifies you for the event. So when I was writing my lesson plans a year ago, I put, the particular weeks that I wanted to work on, these lesson plans. And I kind of divided my work over the entire time that I was away. And I set my own benchmarks, and I knew if I wasn't meeting them, then I was falling behind. And that really worked for me. And you could do whatever is going to work best for you with more or fewer notifications or Google Calendar events. But it's a really easy way to get started on keeping yourself on track.
So, luckily for you all, in order to go above and beyond just a Google Calendar, we have matched you with an accountability partner. So, one of the things I wish I really had last year, especially, when I did it all in one weekend, is that I had a partner of sorts to keep me in line and keep me in check to making sure that I was actually doing my work over the summer. So we partnered you all up, and there's going to be one group of three. So, Rani and Vasanth, Isam and Milika, Cami and Eleanor, and then Madhu, Kylie, and Noah. So you all can private message each other and share contact info. For the group of three, you guys can just use the regular chat function, like with the public one, instead of a private message, because unfortunately you can't private message a group of three. So if you just want to do that now, that would be great.
So talk to each other about how you think it would be easy, or I guess most effective for you to have an accountability partner, and discuss that for a few minutes. And then I think we can share with the group what you all said. And I'm going to unshare my screen while you do that. Okay. Would anyone like to share how they think they could use an accountability partner best? Feel free to just unmute yourself and start talking.
Okay, so based on how I was for my first lesson plan, I was basically in Craig's shoes, but just for one lesson plan, because I started it at midnight, and I think it was due in the morning. So I know that the odds are I'm probably going to end up in the same situation he was in. So instead, I've decided that I'm going to finish at least half of my lesson plans by June 1st. So that way I can revise not every day, because I know that I'm not going to do it every day, but at least once a week. Spend a few hours and revise and make improvements until it's due in the end of June, early July.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think that's a really reasonable goal to have for yourself.
Yeah, I just realized that wasn't even the question, but...
No, it's totally fine. And I mean, you can definitely use your accountability partner to remind you to keep doing that. As you said, realistically, you're not going to work on your lesson plans every day. And I don't think the FIGS team expects you to. I know that I wouldn't expect my students to be spending every single day, grinding out some FIGS work, because it's the summer and everyone has their own responsibilities. But I like that you understand that you have to have that realistic, reasonable timeline for yourself. And I think if you speak with your accountability partner or partners, then you can make sure you're staying on top of it. Because if it's a reasonable timeline, it might seem a little bit lax, and you don't want to get, misled by your own laxness. And would anyone else like to share what they think they could use an accountability partner for?
I feel like you can use them as a way to help you manage the stress that you feel, other than just being organized. So they could like also be feeling what you're feeling, and then you're just there together. We like stressed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Randy, you come up with. It's not just, telling them, hey, did you work on it? Hey, did you work on it? Hey, did you work on it? But being there to like comfort each other and give each other the support, like just not just like asking you if you've done it, but emotional support as well, to make sure, you both stay sane, and you're both not stressing out about writing your lesson plans.
So do you all have the worksheet for this workshop? Or no?
No.
Okay. So
No.
for one, I'm going to take 1 second and I'm going to, well, we present all of the information in our PowerPoint, so I'll just give that to you at the end then. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I apologize for the back and forth. I just want to make sure we have as much like grid mode view of each other as possible. So we've prepared a time management tip sheet for all of you to help to give you some tips, and so you can reference it when you need some inspiration for more time management. The first thing we go over is the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique, I know someone mentioned that they learned about it yesterday, and Craig and I were a little bit jealous because we thought we would be sharing this, unique information with you, but that's okay. So when you do that, when you do the Pomodoro technique, you choose a task that you want to be accomplished, and you would set the timer, which is called the Pomodoro, to 25 minutes. You work on the task until that the timer rings, and then you have to take a short break. Like, you absolutely have to take the break, which is what I think is cool about the Pomodoro. So if you're doing this in the library, you can like scroll on Instagram for a few minutes. You can do whatever works best for you. And after every 4 Pomodoros, you can take a longer break. And I've also listed some recommended apps. Craig, do you want to share any like insight on this?
Definitely, I feel like the Pomodoro effect really helped me, at least not writing my lesson plans because we all know what happened. But definitely during the school year, just being able to sit down and get work done, it's hard to really get myself energized to just buckle down and do some work. But at least with the Pomodoro effect, I can look forward to that like 5 minute break, and I can be like, okay, I can check my phone, I can do whatever needs to be done very quickly, and then I get right back to work. So it's a good balance instead of just buckling down and working for 3 hours straight.
I really agree with Craig, and I like how this is also a really reasonable and realistic time management technique. And it takes into account like the way the brain is actually really not able to focus on. It shouldn't focus on one particular thing for such a long time without giving it like a little rest. So that's that on the Pomodoro technique. And this is Craig's method for when life happens. So Craig, can you share this method with our students?
So basically, when life happens, it's just that, your friends come or something else happens, family matters arise, and it's like, hey, you want to hang out? And it's like, oh, God, I'm working on my lesson plans. I can't do that. So basically, it's just a nice little process for you is to inform the other party that you're working on something right now and that you're busy, and then negotiate a time when you can get back to them. And so like say something arises, you can be like, hey, I got 15 more minutes on my timer. Can you please just give me some time there? And then I can come help you during my break. Something easy as that. Basically that follows into the schedule that follow up immediately. And then when the Pomodoro timer is complete, call them back and say you're ready to tackle that issue. So it's just, I know it sounds simple, but it really helps in terms of just instead of wasting your actual working timer, to say, hey, I can call you back immediately when this timer ends and help you then, and then call them back when your break is up.
This is just definitely like a really reliable way to make sure you're holding yourself accountable and doing your tasks as you need to get them done. So this is Craig's genius strategy for that. And if you're still super busy, and I'm sure some of you may be, it's really important that you schedule your lesson plan work ahead of time. If you're interning throughout the week or you have other responsibilities like a summer class, if you have a free evenings or weekends, like regular events like that, you should plan out a specific time when you're going to be working on your lesson plan regularly, like as if it's another course. And another thing is you don't want to overlook all of the free time that you have throughout the day, even if it's fairly short. So if you commute using public transportation, obviously not if you're driving, and if you have like lunch breaks, the smallest productivity bursts can really make a huge difference. I know for me, I had a note in my phone from the time I went to the FIGS orientation until I was done teaching my class, or if I thought of something for my lesson plan, if I couldn't just pull it up and put it in right then, I would make sure I wrote it down, and I would write any relevant like articles that I came across to make sure that I could access it later. So don't overlook, the 10 minutes that you might have to read an article like on Facebook or Twitter, because all of that kind of research can really, really be helpful. So what should you do immediately after your feedback is released? Craig, do you want to go over that?
Yeah, so hopefully all of you have been able to get your week 1 lesson plan feedback back from your senior PIs, whoever that may be. And so basically, first off, you want to read and understand your feedback. And if you don't understand, make sure you contact your SBI right away to ask questions or to get some clarification about some of the points they made in your feedback. And then after that, I would definitely go and update your old lesson plan so that week 1 lesson plan you had updated immediately. And basically, we want to do that because it's easier to update the old stuff rather than start the new stuff. Because if you just keep on chugging along, you're more prone to making the same mistakes as you did in your week 1 lesson plan. So if you know those pitfalls you fell into, and then you're able to update your old lesson plan, you can say, oh, I thought of this, I'm going to use this cool idea that my senior PI thought of, and now I'm going to implement it in all my future lesson plans, something along those lines. And then also schedule a time to speak with your summer reader. So I think you're already going to do that. They may have stolen our idea, Grace.
They did.
But
our idea.
definitely you want to speak with your summer reader more than just the initial time, because they're the ones who are reading basically your entire lesson plan as a whole. And if you don't understand some feedback, you want to make sure you do it as quickly as you can, because you don't want to do it a week before the lesson plans are due or something along those lines, or re-edits are due, and say, hey, I don't know what you mean by this. And they're like, well, you had the entire summer to contact me. So you don't want to fall into that trap either.
Something that Susan shared with us when we were practicing this workshop for you is that they had a student who was like notoriously bad with timing, I guess. Like they always procrastinated and it was clear, but what they always did was once they got feedback, they would make sure they had an appointment every single time they had a problem or like they were working on something and needed to understand their feedback, because they knew that knowing that they had that meeting would motivate them to actually read through everything and make the edits. So that was a good piece of advice. So the next thing we wanted to do is have a little problem solving session. So this problem solving, problem is I'm studying abroad this summer and I'm stressed about getting my lesson plans done. How can I finish them if I'm traveling every weekend? So what advice would you give to a student who's studying abroad who has to get their lesson plans done? So I am going to stop sharing this screen. Hold on. And we can discuss that together. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have any thoughts, and we can discuss this in a group. So please have yourself on grid mode so we can see everyone and it can be as natural of a discussion as possible over WebEx.
Kylie?
Well, I think if they're traveling every weekend, they should make time maybe on like Tuesday or Wednesday night to like sit down, even if it's just like an hour's worth of work. Like I feel like you might not be able to write the whole lesson plan in an hour, but you can definitely brainstorm and at least get like a rough draft down, and then maybe like the week after go back and edit it type of thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with what Grace brought up earlier about having a note section in her phone, being able to write down some ideas, even if she couldn't pull up her lesson plan, maybe doing something like that, and then looking at your notes later and adding them to your lesson plan. Anyone else? All right, Millie?
I think it's just a matter of like scheduling it in with your work. Like as much as you're abroad, you're also studying abroad. So if you're gonna do work for a class, you could just schedule in like 15 or 10 minutes of FIGS, and like whenever you're doing work, you're already on your computer. So just getting that done, or what you could also do is, since you are studying abroad, just get it done as soon as possible. Like if you want to like cram it in, or not cram it in, but like do it quickly, so that way you can work like focus on like reviewing for the last like couple weeks of your study abroad. But I'm sure none of us can relate to the situation right now.
Unfortunately, when we wrote this workshop, it was like a little bit more realistic. So sorry for choosing the idea of studying abroad to all of you. But all of you had really good ideas on this. And another thing I want to point out is that in our little scenario, we mentioned that the student is traveling every weekend. And unless they're driving themselves, across wherever they're studying abroad, they're taking a train or they're taking a plane, or however they're traveling, they're sitting down with really nothing else to do. And so hopefully that can also serve as a really great time for them to do some research. I'd love to hear from two more people with some ideas or some advice that they would give this student.
Personally, I would do some work right before bed. I mean, everyone is a victim to social media right before bed. Those like last 30 minutes, well, before you go to sleep, you're just scrolling through Twitter, Instagram. I see Craig smiling. He's like, yeah, I can relate. But yeah, so I guess I would just use those last 30 minutes to like 1 hour, working on the lesson plans so that I could actually enjoy my time abroad. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up there is especially with you want to enjoy your time abroad, if you had it. So it's not just saying, oh, I would like do it during like the evening hours, but just like maybe right before bed, at least work on it a little bit so you still have time for activities and you're able to have those awesome experiences abroad and you're not just tied to work on your lesson plan during those times. Eleanor, I see you
Yeah.
unmuted.
I guess like kind of what Millie said. I assume you're like taking classes if you're studying abroad, and I would just like prioritize your lesson planning as on par with like your classes, because the FIGS class is in the fall and you're taking classes over the summer, you can still like prioritize them the same.
Definitely. I think people often will like not prioritize FIGS as much as a class, but you have to remember you're getting paid and you're also getting credits for the work that you do as a FIGS PI, and that's something that maybe can be another motivator for you. So I think we should move on to the next scenario since you guys have all had really good ideas for this. So the next problem-solving question we're going to have is, it's 1 week from the big submit and I have barely any work done. Help, with lots of cry faces. So what would you suggest to the student for how to get their lesson plans done?
Okay, I feel like I'm an expert at things like this because I literally like didn't finish an assignment that was due this morning until like, I don't know, I stayed up all night to finish it. But anyways, what I plan on doing, because instead of like procrastinating and trying to finish it in like the last week, I'm trying to finish it in like the first 2 weeks. Maybe let's see if it like actually works out. But what my goal is to map out what I'm going to teach every class so that I have like the topics set, and then from there it's easier to like actually go in and like pick activities that you want to do, because I feel like with at least my major, there's so much that you can cover. But one thing that I've been trying to be cognizant of is that I'm not like a computer science professor. I'm not there to teach them about like academic topics in like much detail because they're freshmen and like they don't really know that much. So coming up with like things that I guess students can relate to, but like also just like planning that out beforehand will help.
Yeah, no, that's another great point you bring up. You don't want to be a computer science professor because you don't want to be lecturing at them 80 minutes every class for 10 weeks. but you want to make those connections to Rutgers and add your own personal spin on it. So I feel like you shouldn't have to be like, oh my God, like, how am I going to fill up these 80 minutes? But it doesn't all have to be like comp sci straight hard knowledge, but you can add the computer science twist to different activities you're doing. So that's a great thing you brought up there. Anyone else?
I think going off that, it's really important to like have a plan. I think everyone should take like even if it's 10, 15 minutes at the start of each week to plan their week out, and then maybe like 5 minutes before you go to bed, like review the plan for the next day, just so you're on track. And just having that guideline can make everything a lot easier because it's all organized in your head, and it makes you like stick to it. Because if you don't have a guideline, it's like, oh, I can just do this later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's an amazing idea. And there it goes again. It's using the Google Calendar or any other calendar system you use and making sure you review it at the beginning of the week and making sure you review it before you go to bed every night so you know what you're going to do the next morning. So you really want to be on top of this. And Vasanth came up with a really good idea of how to do that. And make sure you look at that Google Calendar. Noah, I saw your hand go up. Hopefully, you still have something?
Yeah, so this kind of goes along with the last scenario as well. But another thing on top of organization is being communicative. So, say like you're abroad, or say in this case, like you're coming close to a deadline and you're not going to have your stuff done, or it's like you might not have enough. Um, I think it's also good just to be like communicating with people that are going to be looking at your work, or that are depending on you. That way you can say I'm abroad right now, and like maybe you hand it in tomorrow. But if you were to reach out and say like I'm doing this right now and I have 99% of my work done, but I might need to hand it in tomorrow or whatever, or share my work tomorrow or at this time, it might not be good, but it's better than just doing it without saying anything. But another side of being having communication is also, say you're approaching that really fast deadline and you don't have all your work done, reaching out to other PIs and asking for help and seeing maybe what they like, the kind of work that they did, and maybe that'll give you some ideas to finish your work faster.
Yeah, fantastic points you brought up there. For the first half, last year we actually had to give dates that we would be either out of the country slash unable to unable to get access to Wi-Fi, so that just in case something did happen with our lesson plans, the FIGS team would understand that, oh, Grace is in China, like this is what she's going through. I went down to Ecuador, so I had no internet in the like end of July. So that's another great part. Also, reaching out to your summer reader multiple times. So it's saying, hey, I want you to take a look at this specific week lesson plan. Can you let me know how it is before the big turn it in at the end of the summer? Doing that, maybe giving them a couple lesson plans every so often. And then you can have that in your calendar saying, okay, I want to get 2 lesson plans in to my summer reader in 2 weeks. And then they can look over it at least quickly. And then you can make adjustments based on that. And then you'll be in a better position to have like a great review when you submit all of them at the end of July. And then the second point Noah brings up, especially in this situation, reaching out to other PIs. I know my mentor group, we actually lost our senior PI after Summer Institute 1, which was unfortunate. She's alive, don't worry. She just had to leave the program. But we actually had to rely on each other for help and creativity when it came to just different ideas we had. So a bunch of times over the summer, we'd be like, oh, hey, I came up with this idea for exploring psych. What do you all think of it? And everyone would make their own comments on it. and like people would actually get together and write their lesson plans together. So you really have your support group out there. So really use that group.
To reiterate what Craig is saying, your SPI, whoever that person is like is a paid resource to help you get through this, and they have done it themselves. And you also can totally reach out to like Craig or to me because we've run this specific workshop on time management. But the SBI cohort in general is such a good resource that I think I definitely didn't use as much. I maybe could have reached out to my SPI a little bit more and it would have calmed me down just a little bit. And as Craig brought up, your group in general, but also now your accountability partner is a person who you can, reach out to if you think that you're going to end up, with a very little time before the big submit, as they call it, and you don't want that to be you, reach out to them early and often. Like, I would be so happy if one of my PIs messaged me was like, "Hey Grace, I just know that like I'm not going to be able to be on top of this," and I would put those dates in my Google Calendar and I would make sure to group me message them. So we're all really here to help you, and everyone wants to see you succeed. So you definitely don't have to end up in a position where you're a week from the big submit and you're terrified because you're scared of the amount of work. So thank you all so much for participating. I'm going to go back again. So sorry for switching back and forth. But we wanted to know if you had any tips. Oh my God, I'm the worst. I have to send you this link now. I'm actually really confused about how screen sharing works, so I'm not sure what you can see right now and what you can't. But I am messaging this link here to, oh my goodness, I have no idea how to do this. To
I got it, Grace. I put it in there for everyone.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Craig. Very loyal of you. Can you see the sheet now?
Yep, everyone can. I can see it.
So we would love it if you could share at least one tip. I'm so excited you guys can all access it too. So please share your tips for time management. I said to put everything in your planner as soon as possible. I brought mine out here to show everyone. It's very, very big with lots of little tabs in it, and I use it all the time. So everyone, please take a couple minutes to share with the group.
Grace, I think your camera's off.
Yeah, I think it was too. So here I am. Sorry about that, everyone.
Oh, we didn't get to see the planner.
Oh my God, here it is. It's beautiful. It's very large. It has all these tabs. I'm like obsessed with it. I totally recommend investing in one because it makes you feel like an actual teacher when you have this while you're teaching your FIGS.
And then for my tip, I said be sure to work on your lesson plans, whether it be actually writing or brainstorming at least 30 minutes per day. I know that isn't the most realistic tip, but it's at least an optimistic one where it's like, okay, if I sit down, just brainstorm a little bit each day, it'll definitely add up over the course of a summer. So.
If you have more than one tip also, please feel free to share. And I'm going to send this document to Susan as well when this gets like uploaded so everyone can access it.
All right, so how's everyone doing? Thumbs up if you're done. All right, I got a thumbs up from Cami, Vazant, Noah, Millie, Kylie, Madhu, Rani. Isam, I'm assuming you're done. I know I can't see you, pal, but do you want to give me an auditory thumbs up?
This looks so
Oh
awesome.
shoot, yeah, my thumbs are up. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
This is super awesome. Rather than read through it, I'm gonna like download this when I download the recording from today's workshop, and I will share it with everyone when I upload the video. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. And Craig, do you want to lead our next discussion?
Yeah, so just before we get into the classic Q&A session, Grace and I just wanted to touch up upon why do you all think people procrastinate? I know it sounds like just like a really weird question, but it's just like why do people procrastinate in general? I know I have the first one. Sometimes for me, motivation ebbs and flows throughout like a project I have. It's like, oh man, I can't wait to get this done. Most likely after it's been assigned, and then maybe 2 days later, I'm like, forget about this. I'll worry about it later. So does anyone else have any other ideas? Yes, Kylie?
So I procrastinate, which I know is a really illogical reasoning, but I procrastinate because I get really stressed out and I'd rather just like I say it's a future Kylie problem, which just makes me more stressed in the end. And I like to think that I work well under pressure and I'm just like, yeah, like I'll give myself like 2 hours to do it and I'll be fine. But I don't work well under pressure. So I think that's why at least I personally procrastinate. It doesn't really make sense because I know I stress myself out more in the end, but I just get stressed out and I'm like, oh, it's a future Kylie problem. No big deal.
That's so funny and also very relatable. So don't worry about that. I do really similar things.
Anyone else? Rani?
I think it's just the inability of people to concentrate on stuff where they get easily distracted. So example would be like here. Actually, TBH, I was distracted a little with my phone because it's right there. But it's just so easy to have all these things right in front of you, like opening a new tab or something like that, especially during this online learning. And then secondly, I think the idea that we have a lot of time is one of the things. So the fact that say it's 2 weeks due and then when are you gonna do it? Oh, I have time. Then you'll just end up procrastinating, like I'll do it today. Nah, I'll do it tomorrow. I still have time, and blah 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 blah. So I think it should be like the mindset that people should have is that it's due tomorrow rather than like in 2 weeks time. So that's it.
Awesome. Anyone else want to add anything?
I can add like a little of my own perspective as well. I sometimes will procrastinate because I'm stressed out, but I also will procrastinate if I'm having creative block. Like, it's really hard for me to do work when I don't have a really clear end like view of what I want it to be, which is kind of silly because it's hard to expect that of yourself. But when you're like a perfectionist, which I imagine at least a few of you guys in this group are, you don't want to start something that's not going to turn into this beautiful, perfect lesson plan that you've imagined in your head. So that was the reason why I pushed off like harder lesson plans for me until like the very end of the process, which ultimately wasn't the best idea, but it's just how it worked for me.
And Randy, do you have another point?
Yeah, I just realized, like, also just the lack of energy to do things or practically just feeling bad because one, you could lack sleep, you could lack food, or rather just your health in general, mentally, emotionally, all of that, which kind of sucks, but that's how it is.
Yeah, no, there are definitely a lot of different factors into play when it comes to procrastinating. I just want to touch up on a point Grace made about being perfectionist. So during orientation last year, there was a program coordinator by the name of Emily Reinecke, And so she told us basically all PIs were all great students. I think we can all agree upon that. We're all amazing students. But usually the pitfall we all have is that we're able to get this done like 2 nights the night before, and we don't really have to look at it, and we kick it away, we submit it, and we're like, all right, it's like B plus A work, we're fine. For this isn't really the type of, classroom in a sense that you want to do that, because your summer readers, they will look at it very intensely, and they will, like, even if you think it's the most perfect lesson plan in the world, there's still going to be some tweaks or some details to add in your reading, in your lesson plan, that your summer reader will want to change. And then Randy asks, how will we know who our reader is? I think you're actually meeting with them. I think it was next week, the weekend, 5/18 through 5/22. You should have set your availability
for the meeting. So we don't know, but you'll meet with them, as Craig was saying.
Will they be our reader throughout? Yes, they should be your reader throughout the entire process. So that's why you should be able to reach out to them before the big submit at the end saying, hey, can you look at this? Maybe it's only 1 week, 2 weeks worth of lesson plan. So yeah, so this is the type of thing you want to like keep going back to and keep editing. It's just a giant editing process. This isn't a one and done situation. All right.
I would love to hear like 2 or 3 more like reasons that people procrastinate so that we can all feel a little bit more relatable.
Okay, this is like, I probably shouldn't be sharing this because it's recorded, but I procrastinate because at the end of the day, you have to submit something. And one, if I procrastinate, I have a short amount of time, so I'm more productive in that time. I'm essentially spending less time on the same product, and it would probably have like some more quality if I worked on it. I just
I think you cut out there at the end, Madhu. Oh, and all right. So from what I think she said was something along the lines of, you don't want to give more time to something you think you can do in a less amount of time. I think, spark notes on that. But it's just that, you actually do want to put more time into this because you never know, a genius idea may pop out of nowhere. And if you have only, let's say, 2 hours to work on it as opposed to, the entire summer, you're not going to come up with those same juicy ideas your summer reader in the FIGS program will want.
So before we start a Q&A session, Millie, were you going to share? Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Something that I was gonna say that kind of like encompasses a lot is like something I always say is like, oh, like in a week it'll be over, like in a month it'll be done. So I always kind of like look forward to like when I'm done with it as compared to like actually like preparing myself to get it done. And that's just a fatal flaw because then eventually like a week from me, Millie is suffering. So it's just a matter of like I always think like it'll get done. It's just like, do I want to suffer to get it done or like actually do it well?
I actually think in the same way. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait until, July 6th, the day after the big submit. Like life's going to be so good, but, life's not going to be good for like the, month and a half until then. So I totally relate. So for the remaining time of our workshop, we wanted to have a general Q&A session. So for whatever questions you may have for us about time management or whatever really like you're thinking of at this moment, feel free to ask now. And you can type in the chat if that's easier, or you can just ask and unmute yourself.
I was just gonna ask, so in a lot of the sessions you guys have mentioned summer readers, you guys have mentioned like faculty mentors and like how they can really help out, but no one's really like introduced the theme, if I'm correct. So like what that it really is. So like for your summer reader, do you just like can we just email them our lessons like as they're due, or is it something like you can use if you want to? Like how does that work?
So your summer reader is more of for the big submit at the end. So yes, you can meet with them beforehand, and Grace and I actually want you to do that. you stay on top of your work. But usually they're just, at least for last year, for us, it was more of just like, oh, they're the person who just read your lesson plan when you made the big submit at the end. So there wasn't really any connection between them or a faculty mentor. But like you can also have your faculty mentor review your lesson plans as well. That's what I did. That's what I needed to come up with ideas. So I used my faculty mentor as a resource in that regard. Any other questions? Yes, Ranny.
Dang, like this talk is definitely about time management and I need it. So, I noticed that obviously we've been talking about time management in terms of lesson planning. I was wondering how you guys manage your time when the actual the classes came.
So I think that like for me, when I was teaching my class, the work that I had done in my lesson plans was like what enabled me to manage my time effectively. So I'm sure all of you, if you've seen your feedback, you may have gotten notes saying that like you need to be more realistic with your times. So like you can't give 30 minutes to one activity if it's like a think, pair, share. You know what I'm saying? So by realistically timing out the kinds of activities and discussions you're going to have, and by breaking down that time effectively, you're able to see if you're really on pace. So for example, if in class you have allotted like 20 or 25 minutes to an activity that has multiple parts, that is a big chunk of your class, but you know, you're going to want to be able to like check yourself to see what pace your students are going at. So what I did is, even if I just wrote 25 minutes in the general time allotment in my descriptive column where I would like write what the activity was, I would write, okay, for the first 5 minutes, I'm having them read this article. For the next 10 minutes after that, they're going to partner up and they're going to make a poster about it. And then for the final 5 minutes, they're going to present it. And if I hadn't broken it down like that and I just kind of given them 20 minutes, I think it would have been impossible for me. And it also would have just like kind of led to chaos because students would have like looked over the article for 30 seconds and then just been like, okay, whatever, I'm going to talk to my partner about our bio class. I happen to teach a living learning community FIGS, and so they all like knew each other. So I had to really make sure that I honed in on that. But by effectively managing your time as you're writing your lesson plans and giving realistic timelines for every activity, you're going to be able to keep yourself on track.
And I think in terms of that was like for in-class time management, but for like out of class during the semester, because you're also a student at the same time, it's not just that, you know, you're teaching, so you're taking a sabbatical from your student studies, but just that, you know, I never used a schedule before, never in all my years, like a weekly schedule. Like I had a planner, but really when I became a FIGS PI, last semester I had to make a week planner and say, okay, I'm working on my lesson plans over the weekend just to tweak them and make the like transition / opening sound better, because I taught on a Monday, and then I'd have to make sure I used all my other time for my other classes. I also took systems physiology for all of you non-STEM people. It's one of the hardest classes in the exercise science major. So I had to make sure I had some time to devote to that as well. So it's just making sure everything's balanced. Any other questions? Grace, did you want to add something? I saw you do the classic lean in.
To be honest, it's because I think I have poor connection, so I can't actually see most of their faces. So, yeah, unfortunately for me, I don't get to see all of your smiling faces on my screen. I don't really have anything in particular to add, except that, you know, we have the worksheet that we've created for you that will make sure it gets to all of the students. And this video is going to be recorded, so if you want to go back and watch it at any point, I think it's going to be on the FIGS YouTube, which is going to be linked to the FIGS Sakai, or Canvas now. It's a Canvas site now. An exciting development. So you have all these resources at your fingertips, basically. And you also have your SPIs, and you have your accountability partners now, and you have your SPI group, and you could even reach out to Craig and to me. None of you are in my SPI group, right? It's fine if you want to talk to me. I'm totally okay with that. I can answer all these questions. So I just want to like reassure all of you that you have the resources you need to succeed, and I'm going to switch back to slides one more time. Apologies. It's just because I put our emails there. So if you'd like to write it down, now is the time to do so. And Craig, do you want to put our knit IDs in the chat so they can like just see it easily?
Yeah.
I'm GLH45. But to any student who is watching this after the fact, number one, thank you for watching. You can also feel free to email us. If you'd like to create an accountability partner for yourself, feel free to just message anyone in your SPI group, or if you have a friend in the FIGS program, it's totally feasible to do it that way. Even if you have a friend who is just taking a summer class, then you'll be able to use them as a sort of accountability partner. Okay. Now I'm finally done sharing my screen for this. Do you have any other questions? All right, Craig.
All right. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, Grace, you can stop recording.
All right.
Also, just a reminder,